Hey, and welcome to Turo Fitness Podcast, a podcast for people who want to get no BS information about fitness and know that fitness is about so much more than losing scale weight. It's about feeling confident in your skin and empowered in your life. I'm your host, Turo Virta, personal trainer, strength and nutrition coach, and most of all, a husband of my beautiful wife, Miriam. Each week, my guests and me will give you some no BS fitness tips and motivate you to take action in your own personal fitness journey as we talk about nutrition, exercise, mindset, personal development, and executing in life with enjoyable but still effective strategies. If your goal is to look better, feel and be strong and experience transformation from inside out, you, my friend, are in the right place. Thank you for jumping in, and now let's jump into today's episode. Hey, and welcome to Turo Fitness Podcast. Today I have amazing guest, Dr. Mike Van Thielen, and we are planning to talk about a little bit about productivity, time management, peak performance and athleticism, dopamine, brain function. But we'll see, as always, we let our conversation flows and we'll see what we will end up talking. But first, very welcome to my show, Mike. And if you don't mind, to a little bit introduce yourself, who you are and what you are doing.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Turo. Everybody hears an accent. So just like you, I'm from Europe originally. I was born in Belgium, but I've been living in the United States. Basically, I came to the United States in 97 as a physical therapist, but wanted to expand my knowledge and got more into quote unquote natural medicine. So I got a license in acupuncture, board certified in Chinese herbs, homeopathy, and the whole 9 yards. But after a few, almost 1,000 patients, I would say, I got pretty frustrated because, yes, these therapies are less invasive or less harmful than what we call conventional medicine, meaning drugs, injections, and surgeries. But I really didn't get the long-lasting results I was hoping for either. So I had to go back to basics and look a little bit further. And that's when I decided to get my PhD in holistic nutrition, but also actually look at Mother Nature and see what animals in the wild do, because I figured, Mother Nature has the truths about health. And by combining those two, I got very confident in helping anybody, not just with their medical conditions or diseases, but also, in the area of anti-aging, longevity, peak performance, and those types of things. After that, I, had anti-aging clinics, and then I went into regenerative medicine, was the CEO of a stem cell clinic in the United States from 2015 till COVID started. And we treated many NFL players, heavyweight boxing champions, and the list goes on, very successful. And then during COVID, I basically, had to ponder what really my calling or my purpose in life was. And I'm really passionate about education. So today I'm an international keynote speaker. I will be opening the Biohacker Expo in Miami in 2 weeks.
Wow.
With Gary Brecka and some other biohacking celebrities. And I do online courses and private mentorship. So I have a few cancer patients, Parkinson's patients, but I work also with entrepreneurs and professionals and top athletes. And so today, actually, I'm considered a recognized expert in biohacking and longevity. So I really help people upgrade their body, their mind, and their life, objectively reversing their biological age and unleashing their superpowers.
Wow, that's such an interesting topic, and that's why I wanted to have you on my show. So, what is like when we talk what I hear often talking about productivity and time management, as it seems like now, especially last couple of years after COVID, and or it was already kind of before, but there is all people, you want to accomplish so many things within a short time, but you have only that 24 hours per day, and most of the people, they know what they should be doing. They have some kind of plan, but then it often comes so overwhelming that you can't do everything, and then you kind of have to prioritize what is more important. So how do you effectively manage your time and productivity to accomplish tasks more efficiently?
Yeah. Great question. We just basically got to look at two foundational steps, right? Because, I developed a result-driven 5-step framework for peak performance or optimal performance. And the 2 first steps is foundation. And so the first one is purpose. We need to make sure we're living our purpose and we're passionate about what we're doing. If we're just working for somebody else or just making a paycheck, you're never going to be the best you're going to be, because there's that fire and passion lacking, right? It's not something that you want. It's something that you kind of have to do. And then the second one is plan. We obviously need a strategic blueprint of how we're going to do things, what we're going to accomplish, when we're going to accomplish it, and break that plan down into small incremental steps so that we can find fulfillment on a daily basis. But to address specifically that productivity, it has a lot to do with it, right? Because we have many excuses why we are not performing at our maximum potential. And so there's many of them, but one of them is time. People say, well, if I only had more time, because we are preoccupied by putting out fires all day long. And so we are unable to free up the time for the important things, which is obviously, self-development, education, and, focusing on our passion performances and on our goals and our dreams, right? So time is usually, one of the biggest excuses. And so the reason why we don't have time, because we all have the same amount of time, and yet other people are accomplishing those things and you're not, is because you really got to be very clear on that purpose and have a plan. If you know exactly what you want and when you want it, and then you break that down, let's say, okay, I mean, we're talking about athleticism and athletes today too. So Paris Olympics are coming up. So let's say you want to win a gold medal the next Olympic Games. So now you have a 4.5-year plan. All right. I mean, that big dream could be scary, right? It's like overwhelming. And that's why we need to break it down. Okay, we got 4.5 years. So what are we going to, year 3, where I want to be, year 2, where I want to be, next year, where I want to be, and break it down in months and weeks. And so what very small incremental step do I have to take tomorrow towards that big goal that I can find fulfillment in tomorrow? And it's all those incremental steps that actually accumulate to that gold medal or that world record, whatever it may be. And so if you're clear on your purpose and then you have a plan, then it kind of becomes very easy to organize and script your day, because most of us that don't have that purpose and that plan, we are putting out fires and we are engaged in many projects that really don't serve our personal dreams or goals. Because when people ask you to help, we're social beings. Oh, sure, I help. And so when I ask people what they're involved in, what projects, usually we can immediately omit or delete a few projects. So the key here is we need to start saying no to certain projects that don't serve our purpose. And then we have people that say, oh, I'm so busy, I don't have any time to, work on self-improvement and self-optimization. And I always find a few hours every single day. So when people say that, I just go through their day. I said, okay, what did you do yesterday? Let's walk through it from the morning till the evening. And then obviously you find people watching TV, people just sitting in the couch doing nothing because they're tired. And, so we can't free up valuable time. At the same token, I had a top executive not too long ago. He says, Mike, with all due respect, I really work, and I'm not, watching TV. I'm not wasting my time. And so I don't have time. I said, okay, let's walk through your day. And so we figured out he had 2 meetings that day, 2 meetings. Each meeting was scheduled for an hour each. I said, okay, you're a top executive. How come you guys as a team on the meeting cannot make an executive decision on a topic within 15 minutes? Why does it have to be an hour? And so I said, do yourself and everybody else a favor and start scheduling your meetings for 15 minutes. So again, even with this top executive, I freed up 90 minutes, an hour and a half that day. And all I want to free up is 1 hour so we can start working on self-optimization. So that's about productivity, freeing up time, being focused, and not wasting your time on things that don't serve your goals and your dreams, right? And then we also know that 80% of what you produce is done in 20% of the time, right? That's a statistic, and it's pretty accurate. In other words, we are really not focused, and we are just, even though we're working on a project, we may not be focused, and we're distracted, and we're taking phone calls, and we're suddenly on social media longer than we want to, etc., etc. So we really got to fix our focus, and we got to learn how to be what we call in flow state or in the zone on demand. And so there's a few things that we can do, practical tips and strategies to implement so we can be in the zone in flow state, because that's where, again, that's where you produce and that's where you can get things done. And when people realize that it's a different state of mind and that's where you win and that's where you produce and you master the skill to turn that switch on and off, then obviously we are productive, we are focused. And every time we're productive and focused, we are doing that regarding a project that serves our personal dreams and goals. So I think purpose, plan, and then again, being in the zone or flow state are some key elements to make sure we don't waste any time during the day and we maximize that productivity you're talking about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love those. I love to hear those because those are exactly what most people are planning. Like that, then they are working like if you are working for somebody else, but especially if you are entrepreneur, you have your own company or you do things that you can decide basically how you are structuring your day. Because obviously you might need or you want to have that kind of free time or quality time. For example, if you want to spend time with your family or with your loved ones, you might still want to watch TV, but there is a time for everything. So if you plan it ahead and not just that, you know, you end up working, and that's why I love to hear that those insights, like how to actually do it, like and if you look really, because that is, I feel it's for the most people that they don't take time to look how they are actually spending the time and what is where you actually spend it, because as you said, it's so easy to get distracted. There is all kind of notifications coming from your phone. There are coming calls and messages. You start to reply for them, and then you are like kind of a fireworker, like trying to put that fire off from everywhere, and then at the same time you end up accomplishing so much less. So what kind of techniques you use to like streamline that your workflow, and if you have that your to-do list in a less time, like you mentioned, like making shorter those meetings, but is there anything else what kind of techniques you are
Again,
using?
based on your foundation, which is your purpose and your plan, you need to break that plan down. So you really need to be in control of your calendar and your agenda, and you cannot overlap to-do items. You need to learn that multitasking is a big mistake, right? So there's certain principles, such as multitasking is a big mistake, that really gonna help you with that productivity, right? And so you really need to get in control of your agenda. Your agenda needs to be organized. And so there's many things that I go over in my latest book, the ISOT method, Unleashing Your Superpower. Actually, hundreds of tips on what you could do, right? Because ultimately, and I do it with top athletes too, ultimately, step 5 of I have an online course called the Limitless Lab, and it goes through those 5 key steps to get to maximum performance through self-optimization. And step 5 is power routine. So once we put all elements in place, we need to see which elements works for you and custom those elements and pour them into a power routine. So ideally, at the end of the day, your life is scripted. And just like you said, scripted is not a bad thing, right? Because control creates clarity, and clarity omits all stress. When you're in control, there's no reason to worry. There's no reason to fear. You know what's going to happen. You know what to expect. And you know where you're going in the right direction towards your goals and dreams. So that control is very powerful because it also takes all anxiety, stress, depression, and worries away. And so that's why I really teach people how to get to a scripted life. And like you said, the top entrepreneurs are the professionals that have it not scripted and then don't have a clear agenda. They'll end up wanting to go do something fun with their family over the weekend, but then suddenly, somebody calls and they got to fly here or they got extra work. And so usually spending time with their loved ones is what gets, pushed down the side. But if you script your life and you're in control, then that important part of your life is also scripted. And then there's nothing scheduled on Saturday and no meetings, and there is no putting out fires because you're in control. And so scripting life is important, for many of those reasons, and creating those power routines. And that's what I do with customers, is go through the 5 steps, and then end up with a customized power routine that the individual can count on each and every day to, you know, be closer to their goals and dreams, being productive, being focused, and not wasting any time.
Yeah, those I love those. So when we talk about peak performance and athleticism, so as a as you are a medical professional working with athletes, what advice do you have for individuals looking to enhance their performance and become top athletes? Like, what are your advices? What do you have?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's many aspects to it, but what I do is I have boxers, I have, you know, entrepreneurs, I got, you know, all kinds of athletes from different sports. And obviously, I'm not a coach in a sense that I'm not going to teach you how to box. I have no clue. I'm not going to teach you how to run faster or swim faster or do a martial arts. I'm not. But the way I can make sure you obtain your maximum performance is through self-optimization, right? So hopefully, if you're high level, you got a good coach, you got a good strength training, and those types of things. But I'm gonna basically help you to self-optimize, which means is I'm gonna upgrade your body, your mindset, and your life. Your life we already talked about. It's productivity, it's focus, it's purpose, it's goals. It's something that pulls you forward and drives you. We're gonna instill that, you know, in that power routine. But when I say upgrading the body, it's about utilizing 21st century biohacking technologies and strategies, and even AI, to actually objectively reverse your biological age, right? Is get your biology younger and stronger and more vibrant. And that will give anybody, not just athletes, but also entrepreneurs and artists and performance. You know, I mean, we all agree that if our body and our mind is in better shape, we obviously is going to translate in better performance. So my job as a mentor coach is not to teach you your running technique or your, you know, sparring technique or your, you know, how to catch a ball as a wide receiver. I have no clue. What I'm going to do is I'm going to upgrade your body and your mindset so that will translate in you being able to, you know, get to your maximum performance or get to that next level and that next level and that next level. And I do that very distinctively. It's called the Limitless Lab. We'll put a link down. And our next one starting March the 4th, but we continuously have these 12-week training sessions where we walk people through those 5 steps, which are purpose and plan, which we kind of briefly discussed. That's the foundation, right? Without a solid foundation or without direction and without a plan, we don't know where we're going, so we're wasting our time, right? And then number 3 is the present moment, because it's 5 P's. It's the P5 formula. So it's purpose and plan. The third one is present moment, because in the present moment, in flow state, in the zone, that's where we produce. So we need to teach everybody on how they can be in control of that and get into the zone on demand. Like, I want to be productive now. How do I get into the zone? This is how I do it. So that's number 3. Number 4 is the power of upgrading the body and the mind. And that's kind of the meat of the potatoes of my Limitless Lab. Because that's actually utilizing all these biohacking technologies and strategies available today to upgrading that body and that mindset. So that's the most important part. And we go over many foundational things that everybody can implement at no cost to really, you know, objectively start reversing that biological age. And the number 5, as I mentioned earlier, is like, now we're going to look at all those aspects and customize those so we can create a power routine that individual, you can count on each and every day to continue to go to that next level, next level, next level. So those are kind of the key steps. And many people, you know, they skip a few steps and then things don't work, right? Because we always got many reasons we are not the best version of ourselves. We already talked about one time, but there's many others. There's no accountability, no consistency. Again, lack of self-optimization, the wrong mindset. Because if we doubt that we're going to reach our goals or dreams, or there's any doubt in your mind at all that you're going to overcome a disease or be the best you can be, then the universe has 2 options, failure or success. If we really upgrade the mind and be pulled forward by the future and forget about the past, and we do things like visualization, manifestation, breathwork, and those types of things, and we incorporate that in a daily routine, then that mindset is going to be so powerful. It's not going to only control the body, but it's also going to be the blueprint to our failure, our success. And so the ultimate goal is have no doubt at all that you're going to reach your goals and dreams. And then the universe only would have one option, a big win, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we do during, the self-optimization phase, which is learning how to get in the zone on demand and using these, many innovative biohacking strategies, and then pick the ones that work for you to mold them into a power routine. So that's how I help anybody, athletes, cancer patients, entrepreneurs, to get to the best version of themselves.
Would you mind sharing, like, this is, I'm so curious to know, like, as I mentioned, I was last week with the women's ice hockey national team, and obviously our goal, or women's goal, is we have Olympics coming in 2 years from now, and that is something I'm sure some of them are listening these podcasts too. So how to optimize, what kind of strategies to get that flow, what you were talking about, like obviously for athletes, it's that one competition, you have a game or you have a match or whatever is that when you need to get the peak performance. And if I just think about ice hockey, that is like you play several games per season, and or many, like a team sports, you play many games per season, and it's very challenging to get into that flow state where you are, like, when everything is going. So would you mind sharing some tips what you are using to get into that flow state?
Yeah, well, again, the answer is it's not the same for everybody. The elements are the same for everybody, which are the 5 elements I kind of little talked about. But ultimately, what we need to do is create that routine that person can count on to be in the flow state whenever they want to. So you talked about team sports. If you, for example, look at the NBA, if you look at a Michael Jordan or even a Kobe Bryant, they never, ever had a bad game. Of course, they lost games. They lost basketball games, but they never had a bad game. They lost it because of their teammates, most likely. But it's because they had a routine that they could count on each and every time. And that routine may not work for anybody, but the elements are the same. And the difference between those 2 players and the rest of the NBA players, which also obviously are very athletic and talented people that make millions of dollars, when people see them play, they always say, and I'm talking about spectators, like, oh, he had a bad game or he had an off day, And so what does that mean if you say this athlete had a bad day or an off day? Does that mean that overnight their talents diminished? No. Does it mean that their physical capacities diminished? No. Right? Did their strength or their skills diminish? No. So what was different? The substance between the 2 ears was different. They were unable to get into the zone. So they were distracted. Why were they distracted? Well, maybe they got an argument with their significant other. Maybe something happened with the kids. Maybe there was a tabloid that called them a name. Maybe there's a financial situation. I don't know, but they were unable to get into that zone, into that flow state. They were distracted, and therefore they anticipate just a fraction of a second too late. They miss the ball, they miss a simple layup, etc. But I think the most important part of that is that when you are in the zone, you only have the end in mind. A good example is like if Kobe Bryant would miss a simple layup, he would probably block the shot on the other side, right?
Yeah.
When you look at athletes that are not in the zone and they miss a simple layup, or the wide receiver, the ball flips through their hands, or a golfer, they miss an easy putt, usually that miss carries over a few more plays or a few more holes. Yeah. When you're in the zone, that miss doesn't carry over because you only have the end in mind, which is that win. And that's the difference between, a professional player and an MVP, and a millionaire and a billionaire. And it's a difference between just falling short of your goals and dreams and realizing your goals and dreams. And that's why that getting into the zone and the skill to be in the present moment is so important. And you're asking me, what are some of these tips, right? Or some of these elements? Well, again, it's purpose, it's plan, it's talking about the present moment and molding that power routine with those strategies and technologies. But they're a little bit different for everybody because, for example, to get into a meditative state, there's many different ways, right? You can do meditation, you can do breath work, you can do visualization, you can do gratitude journaling, whatever it is. And so for me personally, it's a good example. Like 2 decades ago, it's like, hey, Mike, you got to start doing meditation. You're going to perform much better. And I tried to meditate a few classes, And it's like, I can't clear my mind because my mind's going crazy, right? And there's so many things in my mind. And so I gave it an honest effort, but I didn't get any results. And if you don't get results, you do what? You quit, right?
Yeah.
So, but then like 2 years ago, I really started to get into breath work and focusing on my breath. And because I was so focused on one thing, it got me into a meditative state because now it cleared my mind. And so breath work is something that works very well for me. For other people, it's a manifestation or visualization. So what I'm saying is there are certain key things that we need to address, and how we get to a certain state may be different for you than me. But my job as a coach mentor is, going through those phases and customize that information and mold everything to in a routine that you can count on each and every time. So to answer your question is we need to develop a power routine that gets you into the zone that you can count on each and every time, just like Michael Jordan, just like Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, no, I love it, that because this is like what I see when working with the athletes. It's often what causes the problems is that they are either like why you are distracted, why we are scared, like that you are not in that flow state, is that worry about past. Like you said, that if you miss a shot or you have had a history in a team sport that you have lost against that team earlier or that player earlier in individual sport, or you have missed a shot earlier in that same situation. And if you start to think about that, what is your past experiences have been, or if you are a business owner and you have tried something and it didn't work, and now if you try again and you think that it's not going to work, probably it's not going to work this time either. For sure, it won't be. But
and then you're right, correct?
Yeah.
Whatever you think, it's right, because this is your blueprint, and that's why it's so important with anybody, even if you want to overcome cancer. If you're labeled with a disease, consciously or unconsciously, it's there 24/7. And if the doctor says you're going to die in 6 months and you believe that, guess what? The doctor's going to be right. But if you change your mindset and you get rid of that negativity and of that labeling, and you're really going to focus on, no, I'm going to beat the cancer. I'm going to see my grandkids grow up. I'm going to continue to hike and travel and whatever it is that you want to do. And you're really going to focus on that all the time. And that's your blueprint, and that's exactly what's going to happen. And you're 100% correct that, with athletes, if they had what they call failures, that's a very bad word because they're not failures, they're lessons, right?
Yeah.
How come that did not work out as a business, or how come I did not win that race? What went wrong? So that's a lesson. So take that lesson into your next trial, right? And see how that cannot happen again, but then be pulled forward by the future. Visualize your victory, visualize your goals, your dreams, and that past cannot pass your mind. It's got to, that's why that specific mindset piece that would work for that athlete needs to be part of a daily power routine. It's something very small, and doesn't have to be an hour of meditation or breath work. It can be 2 minutes. 2 minutes a day. But if you do it every day, that becomes a habit. It becomes a routine. And it's going to be so powerful because it's an incremental accumulation that you're going to just get to that next level before you even realize it. Because people don't realize how the consistency and accountability of a power routine gets you to that next level.
Yeah, I thought it's really about all those habits. And if you're because in the end you are some of your habits, and your habits, if there is something, if you don't have results what you want, it's most likely that there is your habits, or what you focus, those your power routines, or what you do every single day without even thinking. There is something what you need to work on, and try to find the ways that you make smarter decisions more often. Like even there is almost no one is perfect all the time, but more consistent and more often you make smarter and better decisions, chances are high that time is working for you and not kind of against you.
That's right.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about dopamine and brain function, as that is something what I know that you enjoy talking. You are very good at it. So could you explain the role of dopamine in the brain and its impact on concentration, drive, and motivation?
Yeah. So dopamine is your motivating hormone, but it's also your reward hormone, because if your brain squirts a little bit of dopamine, it feels good. It's like getting a pat on the back. So unconsciously, we look more for that, right? And so I would say before social media, and this is for the average person, before social media, we as athletes are, as performers, we were looking for things that would stimulate dopamine to get higher dopamine, better motivation, and feel good. But today, I think most of us are in what I call, or what we call, a dopamine overload. There's too much dopamine, which then imbalances the five intelligence hormones. I call them the five intelligence hormones. So that's five hormones: dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, serotonin, and acetylcholine. And if those hormones are optimal and in sync, in balance, that's when we're in flow state. That's when we're into the zone, right? That's when we can focus and produce, and that's when we can win. So when we are in a dopamine overload and those hormones are out of balance, and the result of that is brain fog, procrastination, not being able to focus. The average attention span now is 6 seconds, are the latest reports, right? And not being productive. And so it's a vicious cycle, right? And so with most of my clients, I don't have to tell them how to increase dopamine, but make them aware that they're probably in a dopamine overload. Because when we talk about sugary drinks and sugary food and fast food and energy drinks and sodas, it's sugar, and sugar gives a dopamine squirt. So we need to upgrade that diet, number one. Number two, social media now for sure. When somebody likes your comment or hearts your Instagram, consciously or unconsciously, that's a squirt of dopamine. It feels good. And hence we're going to seek more of it. And that's why we suddenly spend a lot more time on social media than we even planned. So again, we need to get in control or regain control over that social media. But also, if we're in control of social media and if we're upgrading our diet and we're conscious about that dopamine overload and we can lower that dopamine, then those hormones get in sync again, and that we don't have that brain fog. We are able to start a job and finish a project and get into that zone versus the brain fog and the procrastination. So that's where dopamine is very important to make sure that in most cases we need to now lower it versus in the past we wanted to kind of do whatever we could do to increase it. But now with social media and bad diets, it's quite the opposite.
So what are other like practical ways to tap into the dopamine system to boost that either way, like adjust it lower or like you said, that some other ways how to get that dopamine if you like if you don't, let's say that you eat mostly healthy and that you don't spend so much time on social media, but still, what are the natural ways to get dopamine?
Well, that's a very simple thing. It's a healthy diet. There's certain precursors like magnesium and curcumin and those types of things. So you can Google the precursors to dopamine. There's some high quality supplements that you can take. It's a healthy diet. It's rest. It's deep delta sleep. So it's those types of things that will raise your dopamine. And it's the opposite, obviously, that's going to kind of, keep the depletion going. So we need to find that balance, and that's very individual, right? Like you said, if you're already healthy and and you're not spending time on social media and you're in control of your life, then you're probably at a good level of dopamine.
Yeah, so there's something what I talk often with my clients, like, because it's obviously we need that some kind of like, obviously you get it also from exercise, that dopamine, or if you go for a walk or sunlight, like you feel kind of, you get that boost of dopamine, and it's something like that to become aware also, because if you don't, let's say that you have a busy day, you don't have a time to go for a walk or exercise or do anything like, or you sleep bad. And then what is the simplest way to get that dopamine boost? It's some sugary food. So you are tempted to get that kind of that short-term win, which is then obviously in the long term, it's doing more harm than it's doing good. And is one of the ways I love to tell it, like to think it like that. How is that thing going to make you feel in, let's say, 12 hours from now? So if that food, what you want to eat. And actually, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are studies that it's not actually about that food. Like it's that dopamine, it's just about to eat that food, that you make that, or it's that maybe that first bite, but you don't need to finish that whole thing to maximize your dopamine. It's just that you allow yourself and do not say that I can't, because then usually if you say that I can't, it's the time when you say that fuck it, that I'm going to eat it all, that And but just to think it like more often, how to actually get it, like how it's going to make you feel in 12 hours. Is it going to help you or not? Even it's always very tempting to in
Yeah.
short term to try
No,
to
you're
kind of
correct because we're conditioned, right? It's like the
yeah.
dog of the Pavlov dog, right? So if we know it's going to give us, a hit, then we get the hit before we actually do it, right? Like the dog starts salivating before the meat comes because the bell rings. So it's the same kind of thing for sure. But you make an interesting point because what we in the conventional world call energy drinks or boosters or those types of things, including coffee and Red Bull and those types of
Yeah,
things, they're really not stimulants. They are not stimulants. They are all depressants. They are labeled
yeah,
very wrongly
yeah.
because what they do is they rob you from energy. They utilize energy in your body. So you feel you're getting that energy. So you feel a quick, like, oh, I feel great. But how do you feel after?
Oh, yeah.
Now you have an energy deficit. And so now you feel depressed. And then the only solution is to get more coffee, to get more Red Bull. And so it's a vicious cycle, but
Oh,
they
yeah.
are mislabeled. They are depressants. They are not stimulants.
Yeah. No, that's actually, we had a conversation with the athletes last weekend about all like caffeine and like, because if you look studies like caffeine, it has several studies that it helps you to boost your performance actually. But for the most people, the dose is what they are already using. Like if you drink already daily couple of cups of coffee, and if you now think that you drink just the coffee before your performance, it's actually not going to, you're not going to feel any boost. But if you are someone who doesn't drink or use caffeine at all and you take then caffeine before the game, obviously you're going to feel that boost. But then now, how what you mentioned, like all those energy drinks and everything like that, most people they are needing to use it. And as you say, that our bodies they adapt very quickly. And
Yeah.
if you teach to your body that you need that 5 cups of coffee per day and 2 energy drinks, for sure you are going to need it. And if you don't take it, you are going to be, it's like an addiction that you need it. And how those companies are then responding, they are that doses, what they put all caffeine and other stuff, what you find in energy drinks. There are I'm sorry, in US, we talked with one player from US that they have even some kind of that it's even legal how much they are putting, because it's they gotta increase the doses of those kind of boosters that people are still feeling something, but it's already getting healthy dangerous, that those amounts of everything. And the best way is still like if you try to be without caffeine or without any of those boosters, or at least limit your caffeine intake and see how is that actually in short term. You will probably feel like shitty, but in a long term, when you get used to it, that you're actually boosting, it's a sleep, it's those healthier habits what actually boost your overall well-being. That's a such a big kind of notice what
Yes,
you make for yourself.
it sure is. And again, they're very short-term boosts with long-term negative effects,
Oh
right? A
yeah.
depressive state. So that's why, like you said, you got to go the natural way. And so we go over all the biohacking compounds and technologies and strategies in the course where you really learn to, increase your ATP production naturally.
Mhm.
And so when you increase your energy factories, your mitochondria, when you're able to optimize, your battery of your cells with its NADPH. And when you're able to do that the natural way, then you have a foundation, then you have a piece of machinery that can produce a lot more versus, having a little car and putting that gas pedal all the way down. You can do that, but only very short term. Instead of developing a much better machine, a much better car that only at half the effort, produces as much speed as that little car where you got to go full base down. So like you said it right, it's short term versus long term. But if you want to have, long term effects, and if you want to become the best you can be, then we got to put in the efforts, the work, and the common sense things that will upgrade your body, objectively reverse your biological age. And it's not difficult to do. And those are all healthy habits. And it's not always about performance, because those healthy habits that will increase your performance will also increase your longevity. You will live much longer, and your quality of life will be much better at the same time.
What kind of, I'm just curious to know what kind of methods, like obviously the longevity, it's such an interesting topic as it's also like something what I'm personally like unfortunately losing my dad only at the age of 70, and he lost his health already kind of early. It was like in his early 60s, and this is kind of, for me, it's my reason why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I wake up, why I do workout, why I try to eat mostly healthy and build those daily habits to be able to live longer, but not only to live longer, but also live healthy. I can be able to enjoy life for longer. So what kind of principles or what you are able to do, what kind of are your best tips to increase that longevity?
Yeah, I always start with the 7 foundations. They're in my book too, because everybody can implement those and they don't have to cost much money. And even if you are rich and even if you have money to buy a hyperbaric chamber or buy a commercial grade hydrogen machine or a whole body photo biomodulation device, those things are all good. They cost money, but they're not necessary and they won't work great unless you put the foundations in place. And so I got 7 foundations. The number 1 is air, right? We breathe in 21% oxygen, but 99% of us don't know how to breathe properly. We breathe through the nose, or we are what they call shallow chest breathers. And so the mouth is here to eat and talk. The nose is a device that was designed to breathe in and breathe out. So a normal breath, and this is a surprise to most people, is 5 counts in through the nose and 6 counts out through the nose. Now, why through the nose? It's obviously a narrower passageway, which drives the oxygen much deeper into the lower lobes of the lung and much deeper into our tissues and our cells, because it's a narrow passageway. Also over here, we have a cavity, and that's where the air would pick up nitric oxide, which is a dilator to get the nitric oxide in our body. So we are biologically designed to breathe in and out through the nose. But if we do the five counts in, 6 counts out, and you get proficient with that, you only would take about 11 and a half breaths per minute. Right now, most people, no, 5.5 breaths, excuse me. So you only would take 5.5 breaths per minute. Right now, through the mouth, we're breathing anywhere between 60, 20, 22 times. So you would increase your efficiency of breathing by 300%. Now, that's huge. So breath work and breathing properly may be your number 1 biohack, arguably your number 1 biohack, because yes, we need oxygen, but we also, everybody heard about oxidative stress, because too much oxygen does what? It rusts us, it ages us, it causes oxidative stress, right? So if we can increase that efficiency of breathing by 300% would be great. So how to utilize that oxygen that we breathe in is probably one of the number 1 biohacks. I suggest today, it doesn't cost anything to go on YouTube or anywhere else and learn how to breathe properly. The best app that I recommend currently is called The Breath Source. You can download it for free because all the breath masters in the world are on that one single app, The Breath Source. So that's number 1, learn to use that oxygen. And of course, fresh air versus indoor recirculated air, spending more time outdoors and those types of things. And then we have the technologies like hyperbaric oxygen, 100% oxygen, ozone therapies, and all those types of things, but they are not necessary because they won't work as good if you don't know what to do with the oxygen. So foundational, learn to breathe, number 1. Number 2, water, right? Of course, we need to hydrate because our body is a plumbing system. We are a circulatory system. We're a lymphatic system, which is part of our immune system. And so we need to hydrate. Think about, pipes and plumbing. The water needs to run through because we need to prevent stagnation. Stagnation equals disease. So we need to hydrate. So we need to drink enough water and nothing else. So you mentioned coffee before. So coffee is very acidic. So it dries you out. It dehydrates you. For 1 cup of coffee, we probably need to drink 5 to 10 glasses of water to just neutralize the acidity. So we really got to look at hydration and only drinking water if you really want to be healthy. And then hopefully in Europe, it's much better. I love the water in Italy, by the way, especially when you walk around, even in a city like Rome, you just can go on the fountains and get clean water. In the United States, and I believe the second country is New Zealand, they even put fluoride, which is a neurotoxin, in the drinking water. So based on where you live, you need to know what's in your drinking water. You need to have a system that cleans out the toxicities out of that water, right? And I personally infuse my water with hydrogen gas. That's another topic because hydrogen is one of the top biohacks today that has amazing effects on athletic performance and health. But that's another whole story. But plenty of water, clean water. Make sure you don't drink lead and fluoride and chlorine and stuff with it. So that's number 2. Number 3, you mentioned it already, Turo, light. All right, we need sunlight. We need to get outside because light stimulates all biological, physiological, and nutritional processes. The best example or analogy that I use is look at all the animals in the rainforest around the equator when there's a lot of sun. Those animals are strong and vibrant and colorful versus animals that don't see sunlight. Extreme example, a mole. Right? Who do you want to be, the blind mole or the vibrant tiger, right? And that's just sunlight. Sunlight stimulates everything. So we need to spend more time outside. And if you can't, there's the technologies. We got all kinds of light therapies, but nothing matches the light of the sun. Now, don't confuse light with heat. Laying on the beach when it's too hot, that will just exhaust you. That is not sunlight. So that's number 3. Number 4, movement. I didn't say exercise because if you're a top athlete or you exercise or you go to the gym 1 hour each day, that does not necessarily mean you are healthy, because if you go to the gym 1 hour a day, each and every day, but you sit the rest of the day at your desk because you're selling insurance, for example, that's not healthy, right? So it's about movement, because just like with water, we're a plumbing system. We need to prevent stagnation. So we need to constantly move, whether that's walking or dancing or being outside or kayaking or whatever it is. Or if you do have a sedentary job, you get a high frequency vibration platform or a mini trampoline. I don't care. But you cannot sit still because it's stagnation. Stagnation is disease. We need to move. So we need to drink that water. We need to move. That's how things, get to the cells, the oxygen, the nutrients, and everything else, right? So movement is important right there. What do we got? The opposite of movement, rest. All right. So that's number 5, rest. We need to be able to get in a deep delta sleep. And so that's where your evening routine comes in. I help people design a routine where they can fall asleep into a deep delta sleep and sleep long enough, because that's when our body does what? Repair, regenerate, recuperate, renew. And if we don't get into the deep delta sleep, it's like a supermarket, right? If they don't restock the shelves 2 days later, you got to close the store. Nobody can buy anything, right? And so it's the same with the human body. We need to replenish and renew and repair. And that happens only during deep delta sleep. So it's crucial for optimal performance, for health, that we get that deep delta sleep and that we feel rested in the morning. So we need to do whatever it is, not take a medication to sleep, but we need to get into a routine. A few examples for the listeners. Number 1, you don't eat 3, 4, 5 hours before you go to bed, because digestion takes many hours, and we don't want to go to sleep while our body is still digesting food, because it's still working, so we don't get into that deep delta sleep. Also, for example, part of my power routine, I do a 1-minute visualization. Why do I do that? Because I mentioned earlier, my mind always goes like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do this. I can't forget this, those types of things. So your mind's going. Many people, when they go to bed, they're worrying about the next day. But what if you implement a 1-minute visualization before you go to bed? So now I'm running through the next 24 hours. In my head, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go there. And at each point of contact, I make the right decision. And so now I go to the next 24 hours. Now I don't have to worry about tomorrow because I just went through it in my mind, right? So there's many things that we can do to get a deep delta sleep. Number 6, there's 7 foundations. Upgrading the diet, upgrading the nutrition, the things that we take in. Now, quickly, there's only one cause of all disease. It's called toxemia. Toxemia literally means toxins in the blood, right? But in a little bit more detail, what it means is that as part of daily living, part of our metabolism, we obviously produce waste, toxins. But in a healthy organisms, those toxins are removed from our body through the kidneys, the bowels, the skin, etc. So no harm is done. However, when we are exposed to far more toxins or take in far more toxins than our body possibly can eliminate, then we have an accumulation of toxins in the blood and the body, and that's what we call toxemia. Toxemia does two things. It creates free radicals, and it causes a state of emergency, which in conventional medicine we call systemic inflammation. Even in conventional medicine, they now agree that systemic inflammation is the cause of over 90% of all disease. So I always say there's only one cause of all disease, it's toxemia. So what do we need to do to avoid any and all diseases? We need to keep toxemia in check. Theoretically, very simple. We need to do whatever we can to mitigate or to reduce the intake or exposure of toxins. From where? Man-made foods, man-made drinks, over-the-counter prescription medications, household products, cleaning products, the cosmetic products we put on our skin, and electromagnetic frequencies and radiations, Wi-Fi, these cell phones, fluorescent light bulbs, all those types of things are toxic to our body. So we need to do whatever we can to lower this, and then do what? Simultaneously increase the nutrients that do what? Fight free radical damage, fight systemic inflammation, and repair our DNA. And if we simply can tip that balance, we are bulletproof to any virus, bacteria, or disease of the 21st century. So we need to upgrade our diet, keeping that toxemia in mind. And last but not least, we talked about already, we need to upgrade our mindset, because our mind controls our body. Our mind controls health and disease. Our mind is the blueprint to our future, our success, our failure. So the mindset is step number 7. And if we utilize and start implementing those 7 foundational steps on a daily basis, okay, then we have a great foundation. And the differences by doing those simple things on a daily basis as part of a routine makes extreme strides forward when it comes to health and performance.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Those are they are very, most people know those things. It's just that then that implementation, that how you are actually able to put them into your life, and even if you can't do everything every single day, that then working on that as consistent as you can, and trying to improve how it goes. And
that's why people need coaches and mentors like you and I, because we make them accountable, right?
Yeah. No, some kind of accountability you need, or if you are not someone, obviously some people are that they are self-efficient, that they are doing them no matter what they are, you have that determination. Maybe you have had coach in the past and you know how to work those things, and you don't need ultimately my goal is as a coach is to be that good coach that people who work with me, that they don't need me anymore. And it's
after I help them in 12 weeks develop their own power routine, once they start implementing, see the benefits, they really don't need me anymore. You just got to stick with their routine that they can count on.
Yeah, that's exactly, and that is what is the difference is with the good coach, that they are that good coaches that you don't need to have a coach all the time. Obviously some people need it, they are just that kind of type that you need all the time to have a coach who is reminding you to do those basic things over and over again. Perfect. That went fast. So thank you so much, Mike, for sharing your wisdom. So where people can contact you, where people can find you, what is the best place to find you?
Yeah, I'm not a big social media guy because I keep my dopamine under control, right? But I have a website you can find everything. It's called biohackingunlimited.com. And at biohackingunlimited.com, you have all my books. You have my mentorship programs. You can schedule a 20-minute call for free to just talk to me to see if I can help you out. We currently have the Limitless Lab, which is that 12-week program. It's virtual from all over the world. You can join. So check out the details of that Limitless Lab, because that's exactly what we're going to do. Is what we talked about today, is get to your maximum performance through self-optimization. So it's a 12-week course that we have. There's events. My keynote speaking page is there in case you are somebody that organizes events and wants me to come and talk about things. So everything is in one place, biohackingunlimited.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming, and hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Hold up, friend. Do you love Fit Me Turo Fitness podcast? If so, the best way to say thank you is to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review on iTunes. I know every podcaster wants you to leave a review, but it's because those reviews help the podcast to reach more people. I truly want to know what you think, and if this particular episode resonated with you, would you also please share it? Either send a link to someone who you think will find it valuable, or take a screenshot and post it into your social media and tell your friends and family why they should listen it. Make sure you tag me so I can hear your feedback and give you a little love. And if you aren't already following me on Instagram or TikTok, that's the perfect time to hit that follow button. Thank you for being here and listening to Fit Me Turo Fitness podcast.